Today's news, Korean mother-in-law's mantra. Please cook for my son.
Did you guys know that this woman right here paints live on twitch.tv/HallyuBack, and she's streaming a live painting session right now? Click here or click up here to follow her on Twitch. And thank you for supporting her. To start, there is so much interesting cultural information in this article. Link below. Go click it and check it out if you're interested in that sort of thing. One of the overarching themes in this article is how the women in Korea that were born in the 50s and 60s have a very big generation gap compared with the women that were born in the 1970s and 80s and earlier, or later.
Later.
You guys know what I mean. In that, the women born in the 1950s and 60s view household chores as unequal inside the home between men and women, versus people who are younger and born more recently view personal happiness as one of the most important things in life.
I think there's also this gap because people who were born back then had to be at home. They were housewives. They stayed at home. Maybe they had small jobs around the area. The younger women, or more younger modern women, are getting jobs. They're working full-time, and they don't think that it's right to make them cook and clean and do all the housework, all the laundry, while they have a full-time job as well.
In the 1980s, the percentage of women that went to college was about 30%, versus now is over 75% of all women who graduate high school go to college. That's a huge difference that is going to have ramifications culturally, and this is one of the effects that it's having.
And it's not just Korea. I mean, if you think about the US culture, even like our mothers compared to our generations, it's very different. And you had a very progressive mom. You have a very progressive mom who I love and adore, and I'm very thankful to have a mother-in-law who did have a full-time job and is very easygoing.
Well, I think there's some similarity there between American culture and Korean culture, because I doubt my grandfather was helping my grandmother clean. Like, I'm pretty sure about that. A couple of Korean women were quoted in this article. One is a 39-year-old woman, almost the same age as me, talking about how her mother-in-law called her every day from the day that she got married for 3 months straight, finding out what type of meal she prepared for her newlywed husband so he could go to lunch and eat a home-cooked meal.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she talks about it being super stressful.
Uh-huh.
And this is something that I was trying to put myself in the girl's shoes, the 39-year-old shoes. Like, forget about me being a man and her being a woman. Like, we're just people. If your mother, God forbid, was calling me every day asking what I prepared you, I would go insane, and I would probably cuss her out after the third or fourth phone call.
And not to mention that would cause huge friction amongst the relationship itself, because I would be questioning why I married this person if they have that ridiculous of a mother.
One of the specific cultural differences here, people in the United States have voicemail on their cell phones, and a lot of people like to just send callers to voicemail, even if it's friends, and then call them back on their free time or when it's convenient for them. Versus in Korea, when a person's cell phone rings, it's almost certain that that person is going to pick it up and answer it. So I could see the Koreanness in this woman answering the phone call from her mother-in-law, even though she can see that it says mother-in-law on her phone, she's still answering it. And I was thinking, why doesn't she just not answer it sometimes? But that's not really how they do things. I mean, there are some people who don't answer their phone when it rings, but that's not really the custom.
And that would cause additional conflict, and Korea has this son mentality where you want to make the son happy and you want to make the son's mama happy.
And the firstborn son is the most important son or child in the family. And so if you're a woman and you marry into that, then you learn about that very quickly. You already know what you're marrying into before you marry it. And actually, foreigners know about that too. That's been discussed on other YouTube videos. That's just a word to the wise. If you are interested in Korean men and you seriously are dating one who you might marry, some of you might be hoping for, if he's the oldest in the family, you better get ready for a mother-in-law who's going to tell you what to do. But then if you're not Korean, that mother-in-law will understand that you don't have the same expectations from her as a Korean would. It's almost like that mother-in-law can dominate a Korean woman more than she could a Western woman, maybe?
One woman that I worked with while I was in Korea had a very different experience from this, and she would talk all the time about how much she loved her mother-in-law because they would go away for holidays to their in-laws' house, and her mother-in-law just made her sit there and prepared everything and didn't expect her to go above and beyond. I just remember thinking, wow, she's just so happy and so impressed and so proud of her family and her in-laws because of this. It kind of puts things into perspective because this was so rare.
I remember teaching a private lesson to a woman who fell into the older generation category. She's probably in her mid-50s by now, and I was talking to her during one lesson about the upcoming Chuseok holiday and if she was excited, really just trying to get her to use her English. And she was telling me that she wasn't excited at all, even though she had a week off, because she was the one that was in charge of all the meal preparations every single day versus her husband, who was also going to be there and be off the entire time that she was off. And he just got to sit there and eat and wait for it to be prepared. And it was very divvied up traditionally in her household, and I felt bad for her because it was just unfortunate that she was born a woman in this particular case, because she owned her own business and had enough money to pay for these private lessons with me, and I was a professor, so my lessons weren't super cheap. And I just remember I had only been in Korea for a short amount of time, so that was really rich information for me to learn about. What do you guys think of the Korean mother-in-law syndrome, or the attitudes that Korean mother-in-laws that our older generation have? Drop a note in the comments.
Yes, and click the like button on this video. Thank you so much for supporting us and subscribing.
That's it. We're out of here. Hasta luego.
Bye.